Liam, the Emperor is pleased with your return to miniature painting. Yes. Which of the Emperor's finest warriors have you completed? Xenos scum, how could you?
What's up, people? Welcome to Millennial Model Mayhem. My name is Liam, and today I'm going to be participating in the Goobertown Roulette League. What's Goobertown Roulette? It's a painting challenge organized by Brent of Goobertown Hobbies, where you randomly select a mini to paint, as well as techniques and colors to use. Want to know more?
Subscribe to Goobertown Hobbies.
I highly recommend Goobertown Hobbies for anyone that wants some wholesome miniature painting and hobby content in their life. But enough talk, let's roll some dice. Alright, it's time to roll for the mini we're gonna paint for Goobertown Roulette Season 3. But first, let me show you the minis I have here. First up, we have this really beaten up old Tau Crisis Battlesuit. Next, we have this Infinity Yujing model. And then we have an Adeptus Mechanicus Peg Leg Robot Boy. Then we've got Ashlyn DeLees, a Warcaster from War Machine. And here we have a Kit-Bashed Wizard for D&D. He's got a book and a bird. Then we have a spooky Age of Sigmar Ghost. This here is a pre-painted mini from the old Dungeons & Dragons miniatures game. Apparently, it's a fiendish snake. And last but not least, we have this cool golem guy who is also a pre-painted mini from the old D&D miniatures game. And apparently he is a cadaver collector. Alright, let's get the dice rolling and see which mini we're going to paint first. We've got 8 minis, so we're going to use a D8. And we're going to go 1 is over here and 8 is over here. 1, easy. We're going to paint this battlesuit. Alright, now we're going to roll a D6 for theme. 2, that means we've got a heroic/underdog theme. Alright, now we're going to roll for our primary color. A 1, that's going to be red. And yes, we are going to roll for a secondary color. 4, that is blue. And last but not least, we're going to roll for our technique. 3, that means weathering techniques. Alright, so I can definitely make this random assortment of guidelines work. And I can't wait to get started on my heroic underdog red-blue weathered crisis battlesuit boy. Alright, so grab your bits box, physically manifest the bits you want to use, and if you're painting the mini to a deadline like I was, sometimes it's crunch time, and what you can do is you can actually just throw your bits in the microwave for a bit. Please don't actually put your mini in the microwave. And as you can see here, we've got a fully assembled and prepped mini ready for some black primer. First things first, starting with the base, I'm mixing up a dark brown with P3 Battlefield brown and Vallejo Game Color black and covering all the dirt sections. For the wrecked vehicle bits, since red is one of the colors I rolled, I'm giving them a coat of P3 Sanguine base, and then a dry brushed layer of P3 Scorn red. More on dry brushing in a moment. Next, I'm painting some minor details with an old pot of mithril silver. Now we're going back to the battlefield brown and also back to the dry brushing, but with a cheap makeup brush for the dirt sections. As I dry brush, I slowly mix in some snakebite leather, and switch to smaller brushes to add some depth to the dirt. I'm going to be doing a lot of dry brushing on this mini, since it will work well with the eventual weathering. Observe how I'm wiping off the excess and build up the color transition. For the final pass, I'm adding bubonic brown to the mix. You may notice throughout this video that I'm using a few old-looking paints. I felt that because I'm painting an old beaten-up model, I should probably reach out for the old paints as well. The last step on the base for now is to give everything a nice wet coat of good old Army Painter soft tone. Once it's dry, I'm pretty satisfied with how it's looking so far, so time to push on to the haggard battlesuit. To start, I'm using Mordian blue to mix with our previous black, and I'm sticking to my dry brushing method for the first layer of armor. Like how I did on the base, I'm progressively adding more blue to add depth to the mini. I'm being more conservative with how much I build up the highlights, because I don't think having bright, vibrant blues will go well with our heroic/underdog/weathered theme. Eventually, I'm adding enchanted blue, and only really hitting the edges of the mini that I want the viewer's eyes to be drawn to. And the last highlight of sky blue is used very sparingly on the topmost parts of the armor. Now I'm going back to the black to touch up the frame under the blue armor, which is then getting its own light dry brush of gray to bring out the details a bit. Next, we're going back to mithril silver to paint some select details across the suit and weapons. I wanted to go with a bright metallic that could contrast with the dark armor, and also work well with the fun paint I've got an idea for. No spoilers though. Balthazar gold, followed by shining gold, is also getting added to a few spots on the weapons for some additional color separation. Speaking of color separation, I'm using the classic sanguine base and scorn red combo for a few panels on the blue armor. I'm dry brushing the scorn red on like I did on the base, but I'm being extra careful to not get any red on the blue parts. Time for some black wash, everyone's favorite step. I know, I'm not using Nuln Oil. Pretty crazy, right? I'm avoiding the silver section on the weapons because I'm gonna try making a glow effect on the barrels, as well as on the shield. I'm starting with some titanium white as a foundation for said glow effects on the back thrusters and eyes. Then I mix some glaze medium with Vallejo fluorescent magenta to start making things glow. This stage of the painting was a bit of an experiment for me, and I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, but I'm glad I tried because I find the magenta really adds a lot to the mini. After the first pass is done, I add a bit of white to the magenta for a highlight on the more prominent details. Painting is done, time for decals. I'm just cutting out a few that I think look good and will bring some more red into the mix, then using a combination of gloss varnish and decal softener, carefully slide those slippery boys onto their designated panels. Once the decals are dry, it's time for the weathering, also known as the most fun part. One technique I've used on a custom Gundam before was to burn the end of a wooden skewer and use it to create battle damage. But speaking of Gundams, as you can see, once I've done the initial push, I push the stick back in to get more charcoal in there, then use a brush to get some of the excess away. Then, to simulate paint chipping, I use a small piece of foam to dab on small amounts of mithril silver. Now, throughout all of the weathering stages, it's important to not overdo it. Less is more. Finally, I'm grabbing some Vallejo Natural Umber pigment and mixing with a bit of water to dirty up the base and feet. Tidy up the base rim with some black, throw on a protective matte coat, and it's time for some glory shots. Now overall, I'm very satisfied with how this project turned out, and I feel like my dice rolls were very lucky because the theme, weathering, miniature, and color scheme just go together so well. This is the second time I've participated in Goobertown Roulette, and I can't wait to do it again next quarter. Thanks for making it to the end of my video. If you enjoyed it, please consider smashing those like and subscribe buttons, as well as checking out my other videos if you haven't already done so. My first video was a Space Marine, my second video was a Gundam, and Tau Battlesuit is basically a 40k Gundam, right? Nice.